evening, everybody. My name is Yewande Efodili, popularly known as PY. Your PY is here. I'm the president and founder of TouchLink, a non-profit organization that supports, uplifts, and empowers victims of domestic violence. I'm so excited, super excited about tonight's session, because this is not just for people that have experienced domestic violence. This is such a needful information that you need to have as part of your resource, because domestic violence does not know race, does not know color, does not know class. It can happen to anybody, from people to people. It can happen. So when you have this resource, you are able to help somebody. So I'm so happy that you all chose to join us tonight. I still want you to share the link if you have not done so, and invite everybody in your community, in your church, in your mosque, in your groups. Tell them to join, your brother, your sister. Tell them to join. All right. TouchLink's mission is to provide support services to victims of domestic violence in need. And we aim to we normally work with men, women, children to break cycle of domestic violence. And we achieve this through our interventions and crisis management programs. We also provide programs to address problems of domestic violence in the community. We advocate for victims of legal and social services, anything that victims need. Well, one of the key things that we've been doing in the last couple of years is our transitional program assistance, which is helping our victims or survivor, our clients, we call them. We actually call them victors. They are not victims, they are victors. They are victorious people. We help with rental assistance for a couple of months, and we also help with anything and everything that is needed to bring them out of darkness and to sit them in the place of light. So we gather resources all over. Part of what we do is to meet every third Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. and we provide relevant topics. We discuss. Sometimes we have panel, we have professionals. And tonight is one of the nights that we do have professionals. But before I start, as I always say, TouchLink is faith-based. And as such, you will allow me to do a short, but, very needed prayer, just to open this prayer up. TouchLink was birthed from the place of prayer for people joining us for the first time. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time of session. We ask that through this empowerment, through this discussion, many that are down will be uplifted. Many that are hopeless will receive hope. There will be deliverance. People will be transformed. People will be empowered to look for life again, to look for hope again. They will be empowered to be who you have created them to be. We also place the speakers, our guests, into your hand. We thank you because they are doing this without asking for anything in return. But we know that you are a rewarder of them that seek you, that you reward them diligently for their good deeds in Jesus' name. So we declare this session open in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So let's start, everybody. Again, thank you so much. We have our community here. We still need more people. Normally, we average 30. And this is such an important topic that we're talking about tonight. Like I said, this is not just restricted to somebody going through domestic violence. This is the type of information that you want to ensure that you have handy or you have in your parking lot, so that in case you see somebody that needed it, you can always pass this information to them. All right. So tonight I have two guests here that are joining me, and I'm going to introduce them shortly. But this is one of our very big session in such that, talking about legal battle. In fact, I can tell you that in the last 5 years, TouchLink has spent over $10,000 on legal battles. We did legal assistance, and I believe we've helped over 100 people for legal matters. Some got 500, some 200, some 1,000, some 1,500, depending on their income and and how much resources we have left. So it's always a shared resources. So in the last 5 years, I'm just trying to estimate now, but I'm sure we spent more than $10,000. I know most of our money go towards transitioning our clients, which is transition assistance, but much more important, anything that we can do to be there with people, to be there with our brothers and sisters in their time of need. That's what we do in TouchLink. And we thank God for how far He has taken us. So tonight I have with me, I'll introduce both of them. They will come up, and I know that this conversation is going to be led by Moni. So who is Moni? Moni Kehinde is my dear, dear, dear sister in Christ, but she's also an associate general counsel and legal business partner with extensive experience advising pharmaceutical and life sciences organizations on commercial, compliance, and strategic business matters. Moni is based in New Jersey. She partners closely with business leaders to navigate complex legal and regulatory issues while enabling innovation and growth. When she's not advising business leaders, Moni is actively engaged in mentorship and community services, supporting initiatives focused on leadership development and professional growth. Moni is also my sister in church, and I can attest to it. This woman, she's so humble. I believe she leads her cleaning ministry. You can imagine an attorney leading cleaning ministry. That's how humble she is. And she also, I believe she also helped OWA, we call OWA. OWA is what? Office of Workers in the church. Yes, so you can see she's very actively involved in our community. So Moni, you are welcome tonight. And we also have another attorney. Her name is Kafilat Umar. Kafilat Umar is a Washington, D.C. based attorney with 12 years of experience in Nigeria and the United States, advocating for victims of domestic violence and sexual violence. She has served as volunteer counsel with Stand to End Rape in Nigeria and as a student attorney at GW Law, and now as a staff attorney at the Maryland Center for Legal Assistance. Her work span the full life cycle of domestic violence cases, from pre-trial through post-judgment. So we have experts in our midst tonight. So I'm just going to allow them to tell us. I know this is just your resume and a little bit about you, but maybe you can just tell us something fun about you, and then Moni, you can take over. Maybe I'll start with you first, Moni. Something fun, something that you think we don't know.
Yikes. Let's see. I tried a cold plunge a couple years ago. So you basically immerse yourself in ice. It's an ice challenge. You immerse yourself in cold water for 2 minutes, and it tested every
How was that experience? I can't survive that.
It was cold. It was very, very cold. I wanted to get in immediately. I stepped my foot in, but I endured, and it's mind over matter.
Wow, that is mind-blowing. I can imagine. And how about you, Kafilat? Something fun about you?
So something fun about me is I'm a member of a book club, and I spend a lot of time arguing and trying to force my opinion on people, which also translates to work as well. And this is something from related to work because of the nature of things that I do at work. I try to, make it personable. So people come in and I radicalize them. I'm like,
wow.
I radicalize them immediately and, try to guess something funny or, just inspiring out of their stories and everything. And that's really what makes the day go by fast, because sometimes we touch on some really heavy things. But yeah, generally my personality is just I'm fun and I love to argue. I argue all the time.
Wow, no wonder you are a lawyer. You are an attorney. Wow, that's interesting. Thank you so much. Again, everyone, if you are just joining us, this is TouchLink hosting us tonight. This is normally our support session. We have support session every third Thursday of the month Tonight is a hot topic: legal battles after domestic violence. So Moni is gonna be championing this. She's gonna be facilitating the speeches and the talk and helping us with the order of discussion. Over to you, Moni Kehinde.
Thank you, PY. Thank you for the warm introductions. And I'm very, very, very excited to be here. I have the honor of facilitating the discussion tonight, and I'm really excited to hear from Kafila. I mean, she has a wide breadth of experience and is passionate about this work. And you heard it yourself, she radicalizes people that she's working with in an effort to get the personal side of them out while they're dealing with heavy things. And on that issue of heavy things, I'll just start by just reading out a safety notice, because I want to make sure that we're all in an environment that we're safe while we're listening to this information. So, caution that if your partner or anyone else who may pose a risk is nearby, consider whether it's safe for you to participate at this time. And if you think you can participate, use a private device and be in a private space where, if it's possible. If you share a device with your abuser, please be aware that browsing history, notifications, or open applications may be visible to other people. Turn off notifications and close unrelated apps so that it reduces the chance of unexpected pop-ups or alerts coming up on their devices, or somebody seeing that. And then, use your instincts, keep a plan in mind for what you do if someone enters the room or asks about what you're doing. You may want to keep another window open so that you can switch. And then use your headphones if you can, so that you're not transmitting the audio, on your phone or your device in case the person can hear you. We also ask that you do not record or screenshot the sessions, because it protects both you and other participants. And if at any point during the session you feel unsafe, disconnect immediately. You can always return at another time. And like I said before, trust your instincts. So, that's a quick safety notice. And then another housekeeping thing is, as a good attorney would do, we share disclaimers. So I want to, just make sure that everyone understands that the information that's being provided tonight is for general informational and educational purposes only, and should not be understood as legal advice or as creating an attorney-client relationship. In the US, laws are different and procedures are different. They vary by jurisdiction and individual circumstances. So if you want to seek legal advice, or if you need legal guidance on something, we ask that you get the advice from a local lawyer, based on the people, the different places that people have said they're from: Canada, Maryland, PA. Make sure that you're seeking local guidance from an attorney in your state or in your country. So Kafilat is experienced, like I said. She's an expert in Maryland. She's not licensed in New Jersey. I'm also a corporate attorney, and domestic violence is not a matter that I practice professionally, but we want to make sure that we're empowering everyone by providing general information and equipping you with tools that you can use as needed. All right, so getting the housekeeping issues out of the way, Kafila, over to you. So we'd just like to, hear from you. What types of clients do you typically see, and at what point do they typically come to you?
So, generally, I would say like a good 70% of the clients we have are women, of course, because women are overwhelmingly affected by domestic violence, and majority of the women we see as well are women with children. Although some people, past relationships, as well, without any marital link, are also affected by domestic violence, but we mostly see women with children. And because it takes time it's a huge time commitment to like go to a legal aid office to seek assistance and everything. And more often than not, the people that we see are people that were referred by the police officer or something after an incident has occurred. So I typically see people at the time when they are ready to file protective orders, or they just need a little pushing, or they're just confused as to whether or not they even have grounds for this or not, so for getting a protective order or not. So usually when people come to me, they have kind of made their mind and they do have need for protective orders.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And PY, I understand that with you, it's slightly different. Sometimes you get people who aren't quite ready, are still thinking about it, or, trying to map out a plan, or are even unsure of what to do. They just need somebody to talk to. So can you please share what your experience is with that and what types of individuals you typically see? I like the way you refer to them victors, so I'm going to borrow that term. And so, what types of victors do you typically see? You're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Apparently, we actually see people from various sectors. We have referral from family, friends, from our community, church community, or it might even be colleagues. So our referral come from all over. You'll be surprised that I have clients out of states, even out of the country. I have clients in London. I have clients from Nigeria. We have clients in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, all over. But like you said, because most are being referred by word of mouth, or somebody that knows somebody that's going through, they will just connect us to them. So at that point, they are still unsure what they want to do. Some of them are even actually still with the perpetrator. So at that point, what we try to do is to walk them through, safety plan, to make sure that at least the information is being protected and they are also being protected, and we present their rights. That's basically what we do. But we get them from all over. And we also get some referral from, I would say, more than this year, from last year, we started getting like 50% of our referral from the state and also from the police. We are part of the FinHelp. I don't know if you know, FinHelp is a resource from the state that actually help victims. So they give us small grants, so we get some referral from there too. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So you're increasing your reach and
Yes.
recognition from the state. So that's wonderful to hear. So Kafila, back to you. As you mentioned, once the individual is ready to file, what types of, what are the common legal issues the victors face or that you have to help them navigate?
So the primary concern is usually safety, because you're bringing somebody to court, and this is merely civil in the sense that they're not going to be arrested. So safety is the primary concern, and with that, well, the good thing is the jurisdiction that I work with, Maryland, does take domestic violence pretty seriously, and within 24 to 48 hours, the respondent will usually be served. So I usually advise don't take paperwork home. If you recall the safety measures we talked about at the beginning of this meeting, something similar to that. Don't go home and be like, oh yeah, so I already got this against you. Just, don't take the court papers home. Wait for the sheriffs or the police to do their jobs. And usually when they come, they give the person the paperwork, serve them basically, and then give them like 5 to 10 minutes to pick up a few things to leave the house, because it's temporary order usually lasts 7 days. So they don't let them like linger and everything. And so I explained the safety issues. Another issue is finances. So we live in a country where bills come up every day, month to month at best. So most people have mortgages, they have bills, they have childcare costs, they have rents, especially because, landlords will typically not give you grace at all. At least you can work with the mortgage company. So I discuss finances, and I must say that even in their cases where the person's mind is made up, sometimes when you explain to people what it will look like, for instance, if you're in a domestic violence situation, you have the opportunity to have the respondent, the abuser, leave the house for the duration of the order. Those people often have to get other houses, somewhere else to stay. So that means now they're paying rent somewhere else. And then obviously they stop paying and there's some sort of animosity as well, especially for somebody that is not repentant. So you have to consider that. It's possible that this rent will become your responsibility. So with that, I do housing referrals and everything. But help is limited, especially given the current climate. A lot of grants have been pulled back and states are struggling to cover these gaps. So since last year in my office, we tend to emphasize that because, and I've seen situations where somebody comes back in the courthouse and it's for a landlord-tenant issue because now they're facing eviction because they can afford rent. Another thing we face a lot is childcare because I did mention that a lot of our clients have kids. So I live in Maryland. There's a huge health like West African healthcare community, and you know how healthcare works. A lot of people do night shifts. I've met a lot of Africans who say, well, it has to remain in the house because I work night shifts. He takes the kids to school in the morning. I just don't want this man to beat me anymore. But I would like to, have him in the house still because we can't, there's no way to manage the children. There's also childcare costs as well to think about. And also like the relationship between parents. And unfortunately, some people are terrible partners, but they're actually great parents and their children love them. And, it's also hard to explain to children where their father has gone to. So that's something that we consider as well. And then there's the gender issue on, it is it is easier for women to get orders, protective orders than it is for men for some reason. I don't know. So when I have men, I usually explain to them that the the evidence has to be a little more strong, has to be stronger. So I think it's easy for a woman to say that during an argument he shoved me and I became apprehensive. But for a man to say that, I don't think the court is like, okay, you could have just left, I don't know. So with men, I always advise call the police a few times, build a case for yourself. I advise women to do that as well. But, build a case for yourself, call the police a few times, consider filing criminal charges because the protective orders are civil cases. I mean, but criminal charges, they will charge anybody for assaults, regardless of gender and everything. So those are things that we typically face. Housing is a big issue, childcare, all of that.
Okay, no, and thank you for sharing. I mean, the gender issue is an interesting one because domestic violence does not only occur to women, not just women are victors of this issue, and we don't always think about that. So, for those on the line, if you see patterns of behavior in your male relatives and friends, please make sure that they're also aware that they could be, subject to going through domestic violence and that they should seek help as necessary. So you mentioned, restraining orders, and oftentimes people just think, well, I get a temporary restraining order and that's all I need. So can you maybe just shed a little bit more light on a temporary restraining order and a final restraining order?
Okay, so a temporary restraining order is the initial order. You get that ex parte. So ex parte means it's just between you and the judge. The other party is not there to defend themselves. And because this one of the principles of justice is that you must hear both sides. So a temporary restraining order will be granted until the respondent is served. And once that person has been served, then they would schedule a final they'll schedule a hearing for a final protective order and both parties can come and give evidence at that point. And, they can consent to the protective order. So consenting is neither an admission of guilt nor a denial. It's just, okay, this person does not want me to contact them, to be in the same house with them. I will just leave for now. Or they can defend themselves and, either win or lose the case.
Okay. And then you also mentioned criminal charges. So what does that entail? And how do you go from, can you file that at the same time you're filing a temporary restraining order? Or do you have to wait for a final restraining order? Or can you, file criminal charges at any point?
So, it depends on the case, really. Sometimes I don't particularly see any, because crimes are defined by statute. So sometimes I can't really shoe on what's happening into a statute, but stalking, there is statute for it. Assault of any degree, first or second. So if there's some physical violence involved, I definitely refer that person for criminal charges. And criminal charges can be filed at the commissioner's office in your state or the state attorney's office. I always advise people, if it's during the day, during work hours, go to the state attorney's office, because that way you're going direct to source. If the commissioner's office will have to send it over to the state attorney's office, you're going direct to source. And also, if you have language challenges as well, you want to make sure that when you're reporting these cases, you tell them what your limitations are, because how you write what is wrong with you goes a long way in helping you get the justice, the results that will be beneficial to your situation. So there are some, the way people talk is different. So for instance, Nigerians will know that if somebody says, I will show you, it could mean death. It could mean simple assault. It could mean, just something malicious. But if you go to the state attorney's office and say, my husband did this and that, and he told me that I will show you when I get back home today, they don't understand what he's showing you. They don't understand why you're afraid that he will show you when he gets back home. But you, in that situation, know when this man says, I will show you, it will lead to a slap, it will lead to a beat down. So you need to be able to express those things properly in the way that people will understand, because unfortunately we are in a society where this is so, well, it's good, it's very multicultural, but like when it comes to the law, it only understands certain languages, so you want to be as clear as possible.
Now, and thank you for bringing that up. So two things that I wanted to touch on what you mentioned. You said you could go to the commissioner's office or the state attorney's office. So does that mean you do not need to get a police officer involved in order to file criminal charges?
No, you do not need to get a police officer involved. Actually, I would say that you should absolutely try to file it yourself, because if you're expecting the police to do it, then they go through their own internal decision on whether this is something that they should refer to the state attorney first before they send it to the state attorney. They probably will write a more comprehensive result report, because that's just what they do, and they record everything and do it. But I mean, in a situation where there is the benefit of the police doing that is that they might be arrested, if depending on how bad it is. So you should always call the police. But if an arrest is not done, don't wait for the police to file the report for you. You should just go file it yourself if you've been assaulted.
And thank you for that clarification. The second thing you brought up that I wanted to touch on is evidence. So I'm sure a lot of people here have watched Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, and Suits and other legal shows on TV that sensationalize the legal procedure and courtrooms and hearings and the ways that attorneys can behave. But starting with evidence, can you speak a little bit about what type of evidence is typically helpful when you're either filing for a temporary restraining order, a final restraining order, or even criminal charges?
I photographs are great. Photograph your injuries, screenshot text messages. If somebody is bothering you, sending calling you several times, screenshots those calls. I think photographs are great because one, they're easy for per se litigants to use. So when it comes to video, it's just, and also the judges are overburdened. So you remember that you're going to be before a judge that has like 20 to hear 20 cases in an hour, 30 minutes. They're not going to be scrolling through your phone to talk about videos. You need to have evidence that you can print out on paper and give it to them. Now, you don't necessarily need to have evidence. Sometimes it's apparent. If somebody beats you up and you're in court the next day, trust me, anybody that sees you knows that something happened to you. So you don't need to have evidence. If you're also able to explain yourself properly, if you're able to present your case to the court clearly, you might not even need to present any evidence, but you should always go into any lawsuit remembering that there's another side who is going to deny what you're bringing forward. And that's why evidence is important. My best evidence is something that you can put on paper. And beyond evidence, you also want to be able to make your case clearly in about 2 sentences and in a minute or 2 minutes max. The judges do not have, they have a short attention span. They want to hear that you were attacked, that you're being stalked, that you're being threatened in the first 2 sentences. Otherwise, you lose them. This is very sad. The background story might mean a lot to you, but trust me, there is nothing you're telling a judge that they have not heard. That person has sat on the bench for 20 years. There is no type of domestic violence they're not aware of. So they don't need the background. They just need to hear the incidents that will make them help you. So those are things that you should keep in mind for trial.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. So the dramatizations that we see on TV is not necessarily helpful in real life, because the judges have, large caseloads. And then something else, you used a term pro se. What does that mean?
Well, I'm sorry. A pro se litigant is a person that is representing themselves. So my organization usually helps pro se litigants or because resources are limited again, so we can't go to court with everybody that needs help. So if you're able to navigate it yourself, we would assign, we would help you with all the paperwork, make sure you get an interpreter in court, print out all your evidence and send you send you on your way. And then sometimes if people apply early enough, then they can get actual legal representation in court. So per se means you're representing yourself.
And what are the, benefits? I mean, because there are people who, you mentioned finances earlier, and oftentimes that is the main reason why people decide, you know what, I'm going to file by myself, I'm going to represent myself. I mean, there are also people who are, I forget the terminology for them, but they're anti-state. And they believe that, the state does not have, jurisdiction over them. But for those who finances are a major issue, what should they be considering if they do decide to file and represent themselves?
Unfortunately, I can't speak for New Jersey, but the good thing about Maryland and DC is filing protective orders and appealing them is completely free. So when you are pro se, you're spending $0 to get help. And once you have a protective order in place, if the person is in contempt of it, so they say, don't call this person, don't text this person, don't show up to theirs, and they show up. If the police comes, they're arresting them immediately. To be honest, there are some times when people don't know how to assert their rights enough. So this is what I mean by radicalizing people. I also tell people how to deal with law enforcement. If the police comes and you're like, I'm not sure it's supposed to be here, then they're like, okay, sorry, you just need to go. But if the police come and you have a copy of your order and you're saying, this man is not supposed to be here, he's been here this morning, he's been here this afternoon, I want you to take him now. That person is sleeping in jail. And they're going to be charged for contempt of the protective order. All of this is free. So depending on your state, you might have to look at your local laws, and you can always get this information from the website of your state's court. They will have a list of filing fees there, and I'm like 90% sure that domestic violence protective order filing will be free of charge. And if it's not free,
It is
you can
free. It
always
is
get
free
a
in New
case
Jersey.
waiver. Oh, good. You
It
can
is
always
free
get
in
a
New
free
Jersey.
paper as well. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. Now, so the person gets through the process of determining, you know what, I'm going to file by myself, I'm going to represent myself, and then they get to court and the abuser is there with an attorney. How do you prepare this individual for going against an attorney who has several years of experience and whose sole job is to, basically invalidate everything that this victim is presenting?
So, during the initial consultation stage, we also talk about it. So, for instance, I'm just, when somebody's married to a professional, so somebody that sounds somewhat successful, they talk about this person has security clearances. I already know that kind of person is going to get an attorney. So I ask the person, I can help you start this case, but for your final order, are you able to afford an attorney? They say no. That's a good candidate for referral for actual representation. Now, if that can't happen, if they have a fantastic case, so wrong word to use because there's nothing fantastic about domestic violence. But if they have a good case that is obviously good on, just looking at it, I attach all the relevant evidence. If they're not very good at speaking English, I make sure they have an interpreter. And then the paperwork has to state clearly that they deserve a protective order from the first or second sentence. So by the time it gets to a judge, regardless of the kind of attorney that comes, what the judge is saying is advise your clients to consent. And I've seen that happen several times. But I've also seen times where people that are easily intimidated, though, regardless of how good their case is, sometimes they go upstairs and they mess it up and they come back downstairs. Appeal is free for domestic violence. We file an appeal and then we refer them for free legal representation. So it can still be salvaged in situations where we think it's definitely worth trying.
Okay. And do you have any examples? Because we've been speaking, mostly theoretical so far. So I was just wondering if, understanding attorney-client privilege, and you're not going to share any names, but just wondering if, you can share an example or even a hypothetical of an individual who represented or filed pro se and went against an attorney and how that went.
Okay, so I had a client. This happens quite frequently. So I'll say one instance where it didn't work because actually that's a good example. That's a better example. So I had a client who spoke Farsi. She's Iranian, and she couldn't speak English. By the time she was filing, she was asking for emergency funding as well. And that's how I got to know the husband's income was over 200 grand. So instinctively, I knew this person would get an attorney because they can afford it. It costs like what, 2 grand to $3,000 for that final hearing. So I told her, I said he's going to get a lawyer, but you have so now her case was good, but it also wasn't very good. I think this is where the language barrier comes in. And sometimes I'm not entirely sure if the translators do a very good job of presenting the issues in English, honestly. So her own issue was false imprisonment, um, consistently locking her out of the house and claiming that locking her in or out of the house and claiming that he forgot and stuff like that. So it's a false imprisonment is it's you have to tell a story, and I just wasn't sure that she could tell that story well, even though this person was clearly afraid. The day before, he had locked her in the garage for hours and she was with her son. So it she went, she lost the case, and then obviously, you also think about the culture. Our family got involved, and by the time she came back, she was just a mess. She was just a mess, and she wanted to appeal, but then she was telling me her dad, and I just said I don't think this is a good time for you to go back to court, especially because of the way you are, your family involvement. I understand our culture properly, so I said if he does something, if you're going to stay back in marriage, if he does something much worse, come back immediately, or if this persists, but it just wasn't looking good. Even if she got legal representation, he still has his lawyer, and yeah. That was very sad because she had a son with her, very cute little boy, and he was playing with her the entire time, and she didn't get it. I was so sure that I was, that was sad. But for the most part, if you have a very clear case on the on the face of it, we make a joke in my office to say that lawyers in Maryland use this as free food, even when respondents come to office, because we do see respondents as well. When respondents come and they're like, should I get a lawyer? I say, just go and consent. Don't waste your money. This person has written all of these things about you. I'm not here to judge you, but there's no lawyer that can get you out of this protective order. Go consent so that way you're not incriminating yourself in future criminal proceedings.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for sharing that. And PY, if we can bring you back up. So the lawyer has shared their side of the story and their perspective on, individuals who do pursue legal action, and sometimes it's favorable and other times it's not favorable. Just wanted to hear from your side as a victor advocate. What do you do to prepare the individuals that come to you for legal hearings or any legal battles that they may need
Thank you
to
so much. Thank you so much. By the way, powerful conversation. Thank you, Kafilat. But before I answer the question, I want Kafilat to talk a little bit more on advising people when they file a restraining order. Especially what we had spoken about during our pre-session about, making it sure. I know you did mention that, but I think you gave an example, like if you want to say this, you should just say something like this. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, and I will answer the question.
And just to help with that, Kafila, it was about, the example was an individual who's had experienced several years of domestic violence, and there was one incident, and the individual, instead of focusing on the one incident, went into the backstory.
Okay, so this is basically going straight to the point. It's easier to remember recent events. It's domestic violence doesn't just happen overnight. It's also leads to it's so for many people they enjoy it for a while before they file. So what I always advise people to do is talk about the most recent thing. What happened last night? What happened last week? The good thing about protective orders is that you can get a protective order for one threat of violence. Your husband says, I'm going to kill you. You're getting a protective order for that, for sure. Because if somebody says they're going to kill you, we know it's possible that they can kill you. So there is no back and forth. There is no need for you to now go into what happened 2 years ago, where he said he was going to kill you then. That most recent one is good. And you go to court and say, X is my husband. We were in an argument yesterday and he said he was going to kill me. I live with him. I'm worried for my safety. I need a protective order. So two things, you've already established your relationship with that person. You've established a threat and you've established a continuous threat, which is very important for protective orders. You can't be afraid of somebody who cannot possibly do anything to you. So a stranger pushes you on the road and goes about their way. Yes, they did something bad to you. You can file criminal charges for assault for that. But you don't need a protective order because this person doesn't know where you live. They don't know where you work. They don't have your number. What are the odds that they will come back to harm you? A protective order protects you from future harm, from continuous harm. So you need to link it that way.
Okay, so I'll give a hypothetical. So let's say there's an individual who, is with their abuser for, let's say, 10 years and they have a child and they go to, and this individual has separated from the abuser, let's say, pick a number of years, let's say for 2 years, they haven't been together, but because of the child, they have remained in constant communication. On this particular day, individual takes their child to a soccer game and the child is playing soccer and the abuser also attends and has a right to attend as the parent. Something triggers the abuser and the abuser abuses the individual in front of parents, in front of children. In that particular situation, what should the individual do? Because again, there's been a history of domestic violence, but there's one instant, a recent instance where they've been abused. What would you advise in that situation?
So my advice will obviously be to file, and then if that person had to represent themselves in court, this is how I would describe something like that. X is my ex-husband. We share custody of our 10-year-old child, so we have to see each other regularly. On so and so dates, or last Saturday at the football game, X got irate because he was drunk, physically attacked me, and physically attacked me in public, and they had to call the police, and the police, made him leave the premises and all of that. I need protection because we have we have joint custody of our child. We constantly see each other too. This person attacks me in public. So imagine what he would do in private. Then, 3, I was attacked. So I deserve a protective order. And that kind of person should also consider filing to modify their the existing custody order as well, because the courts that handle domestic violence in some states are not the same courts that handle protective order, and might not necessarily be the same courts that handle family law issues. So if there's an existing custody order, they might not want to touch it. But if you're in a state or a jurisdiction where the same court does it, then you can file both. You can file for the you can file to amend the custody order, and also file for the protective order at the same place. But protecting yourself is very important, and linking the fact that this is somebody you will see constantly to your case makes it so much easier for the court to see the need to grant the protective order.
Okay, so let's throw in another fact into that. Let's say, this person is an immigrant and has been waiting for their papers. So they've been separated for 2 years, and the green card or the citizenship has been in process for a while, and it's reliant on the abuser. In that situation, what do you advise that the individual do?
I would advise that they file the protective order and immediately do a referral to free immigration resources for potential VAWA cases if they need to do that as well.
And
But
what is
keeping the record is important.
VAWA?
VAWA is Violence Against Women's Act. So it protects victims of domestic violence who are also, the part of VAWA that I'm very familiar with is the part that has to do with immigration and how it connects with victims of domestic violence. So just because somebody has petitioned for you and is, doesn't give them the right to treat you badly, because obviously we live in a country where, being in status is very important. So with VAWA, you can get a divorce and still petition as long as you were married and you had a right to the green card before the domestic violence and everything. So if you consult with an immigration attorney, I am not very good at this because I don't do immigration law, so I do the referrals. They would explain to you better, but I've seen success stories from VAWA. It's very great. So we'll refer, and also if there's a potential that you will go the VAWA route, filing for a protective order and criminal charges will definitely help, and you can use that as evidence of domestic violence. And obviously, if a court has pronounced that you deserve protective order, is unlikely that DHS will question that.
Okay, so let's throw in another fact into the hypothetical.
We're running out of time. So and we have a lot of questions to answer.
Okay,
so maybe I should answer. If you can put me back, let me answer the case about what do we do for victims when they have to go for hearing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
How do we prepare them? Yes. So basically, the information is all out there, but we do have we prepare our clients, victors, on how to get ready for court. A lot of times we have clients that are at that point, they are agitated, they are afraid, or maybe they were getting some messages already gotten intimidated. So we try to calm them down. And we try to let them know that, really is burden of proof. I know you are talking about, as long as they can, but sometimes it depends on the judge that you get. Burden of proof is really important. We encourage them to make sure during our safety plan, we encourage them to take as many pictures as possible, to have text messages, print everything out, make copies, and also all this information, and also to get their legal documents, like your passport, your record, the children's passport, get it out of the house. Don't if you're still living with the abuser, don't let them know that you are getting it out of the house. Put it in a safe place where they can reach it. But if you are going to court now, so we prepare them on what to expect at the court. One of the things that I try to encourage the victors with is to ensure that they go with somebody, their friend or their loved one, or if they want, if I don't go with them, we can always get one of our volunteers to go with them. Why is that important? Because they are not alone by themselves. When the abusers see that they are with somebody, they will definitely not come near them. But when they are alone, it's easy for them to intimidate them. So also one of the things we also tell them to do is to, of course, I'm a pastor, I pray with them, but it's always important to get to court on time, get to the court on time. So you are not you are not rushing, you are not agitated. And also I always tell them, even though it's a very sensitive situation, not to get too emotional, especially when you are expressing yourselves. And don't think by crying, by throwing up your hand, the judge might have more pity on you. Basically, I tell them, just provide your evidences. Be as as articulate as possible. Just come, present your information, and God will go with you, because really you have more plus on your side, than especially once you have the temporary restraining order, you are going for final, you have more side on your side than, and then to limit talk, like she said, different stories of what has happened years ago, might not really be helpful unless there's a situation, or if they make a reference to what happened in the past. But what you have right now is really very important, and also to emphasize that your life is in danger. To really look at the judge and look at anybody in that court to say, I am afraid. Just keep insisting, I am afraid for my life. I am afraid for my life. It's so important, to let them know that you are afraid, because it's one-time situation or two-time situation does not mean this guy will not kill me. He has threatened me in the past. He can, do and undo anything, especially when he's not, when he's under influence, or when he's not himself, especially if he's somebody that's always very angry. They can do and undo, and they will apologize later. So I always prepare them just so, but most importantly, let somebody go with you that can calm you down when things are tense. And also tell them to be ready. To be ready, there will be so many things that especially when the person comes with a lawyer, they will try to intimidate you. They will put different things on you that will want to make you think, or just go irate, go crazy. That's what they are looking for. So that's what we do.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing. So I think if we didn't hear anything tonight, we definitely heard safety is paramount. You want to be able to articulate your case and your fears and your concerns in a very, very short and concise way. And the other big key thing is that there's help. Help is available. There are resources like TouchLink. There are legal aid societies, legal clinics, and pro bono services depending on your income. And if you ever do choose to file by yourself, there are resources to help you navigate that process as well. And we'll put some legal resources. You can definitely take a look at some of the local law schools. They have what are called legal clinics. And these are ways for law students to get practical experience supervised by an attorney. And, these are often free services. There are also legal aid and pro bono services in different states, in different countries. We'll provide some resources for the state of New Jersey, but please take a look at your state, do some research. And if you need more help in doing research, reach out to TouchLink and we can help you
We
navigate.
have to take the questions. We have to take all the questions. Yeah. Let's take the questions in the chat. Yeah. Moni,
All right.
can you state the question? Okay.
Sure. So I'm just pulling that up. Okay, so first question here is, in a marriage, could you please speak a little bit about navigating as a Christian the fine line between love and forgiveness while still setting healthy boundaries and documenting what is happening to protect yourself? So I'll throw that one to you, PY.
I mean, I think the Bible is very clear when you're trying to go biblical or the person is coming biblical on you. I believe it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13 to say love is kind. It does not do this, it does not do that. So really, if in a marriage where you guys are proclaiming love, it should not hurt you, right? So where love is now hurting, where love definitely something is wrong. And I always say you can't treat something until you diagnose it. You always look for what is somebody is beating you and then coming to profess love or buying you flowers the next day does not mean you should be quick to forgive. We have to address the issue, right? And if the person is an angry person, that the moment you talk about the issue, he slapped you. You don't, and by the next day when you wake up, he's giving you flowers. You can't say, oh, we are Christians, but definitely there's no love that is being displayed. If it's constantly, because again, domestic violence is a pattern of behavior. So it's constantly demeaning you. It might not even be physical, right? It can be psychological, emotional, right? Emotional abuse. It's constantly doing this to you. And you guys are not addressing it. What our advice is, first of all, to seek counselor, go for counseling. I mean, if you are in a church setting, maybe your pastor, but I can tell you that many times some pastors in some churches they don't know domestic violence. All they will tell you is to pray. So I always tell people that if you are in a setting, just go for professional counseling. And then you can let your pastor know about it. Maybe we pray along with you. But like if you come to my pastor now, if it's domestic violence, my pastor will say his own, but he will tell you that that's not his specialty. He will refer you to the specialized counselors that can help you. So forgiveness can come into being when somebody is constantly abusing you. It has to, because it doesn't get better, it gets worse. And if you keep ignoring the abuses, it gets worse. And you don't want to die, or you don't want yourself to be killed in the relationship because the Bible says we should forgive. I think that's something we need to be careful when we're playing with those words.
And thank you. So you can forgive, but you need to make sure you protect yourself and get yourself out of a bad situation. Thank you very much. I'll throw this one to you, Kafila. For individuals who are maybe experiencing mental and emotional abuse rather than physical abuse, how do you advise those individuals? I know the question is really about how do you handle a partner, but on the legal side of things, because TouchLink has addressed, gaslighting and emotional abuse. So I'll refer you to some of the previous TouchLink sessions. But on the legal side of things, how do you advise an individual who is being mentally and emotionally abused rather than physically abused?
It's very hard to get a protective order for that. So protective order is for physical violence, think pinching, slapping, pushing, shoving, throwing objects. It's for somebody restricting your movement, somebody locks the door so you can't leave. It's for threats of violence, and that's very important. The minute somebody threatens you to slap you, to kick you, you can get a protective order for that. It's for stalking. is for sexual assault, revenge porn, very important. But emotional abuse will get you a protective order if it's tied to any of those things that I mentioned. So you can put in your paperwork, but just emotional abuse, and I'm saying emotional abuse because gaslighting is you will be dismissed. Because how do you explain gaslighting in court? I think with gaslighting, you also need to explain the dynamics of your relationships and all of that. The court does not you can get mediation help. Your states might have free mediation where you can talk about those things, mental health resources. So I'm sure some states also have, like I don't know if they have free couple counseling, but there should be resources that you can look at for things like that. But you can't discuss, there is no way for you to get that you get protective order for gaslighting. No. Um, so I think I've also answered is it only physical violence or stalking?
Yeah.
No, yeah. You can also get it for, people locking you in the house and stuff like that. So it doesn't
Okay.
have to be physical. And threat of violence is actually one of the biggest ones that people get it for.
Okay. And then the next question is, can you speak on the legal difference between assault and harassment? I mean, those are statutory definitions, right? There are statutory definitions for those.
Yes, there are. But in general terms, assault is usually used for fear of fear or apprehension of physical harm or actual physical harm. So somebody shoves you, somebody slaps you is assault. Somebody does like they want to slap you is assault. But that might not get you a protective order because they didn't make contact. But if you write it in a way that says he threatened I was going to slap me and then he tried to slap me and then I dodged, that will get you a protective order. So sometimes you have to be creative in the way that you draft things or that you explain things to the court. Harassment is a pattern of behavior that puts people in fear for their safety. So it's not just one thing, it's something that is repeated. So for instance, you and your partner are, you're divorced and it consistently just drives to your house and parks there. Like every evening, every night is there. Now he's not making any contact with you. He's parked on a public road. It is, okay for him to be, but it has no business being there. And this has been going on for a month. You could argue that he's harassing you because obviously there's the reason is there is to put you in fear of your own safety as well. And, so when I use harassment for things like that is where somebody doesn't have a very strong case and I'm just trying to build a pattern for them that the courts will realistically understand that, okay, this person is not being overt. And they're super intelligent, abusive people who will never actually do something, but will do little irritating things and, things that will put you in fear of your safety. And those kind of people, you can always just build a pattern and use harassment to get a protective order.
Thank you. And someone has a question here that appears to be specific. So I'm not going to ask that question. I'll move to the next one. And here it asks if, and the reason for that is because, again, Kafilat is not a licensed attorney in New Jersey and cannot give individual advice, but we will provide you with the legal resources, the links to different legal resources at the end of the session. So the next question is, if the abuser is overseas, would you recommend making any formal or legal filing to establish a record and provide future protection? So not an immediate threat, but what would you recommend in that situation?
Absolutely not. For you to you should be for you to get a protective order, you have to be able to serve the person because if you can't serve the person, then how do they know that they shouldn't do X? Because that's really what a protective order does. Don't do this, don't do that. You also need to consider jurisdictional issues. Yes, the court has jurisdiction over you and jurisdiction to protect you, but they don't have jurisdiction over that. And like we mentioned, domestic protective orders are free. they're not trying to serve somebody overseas. That's just too much work. Nationwide, yes, they do that. And it takes, even if for other states, it takes like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in Maryland for them to be able to serve somebody in the other state because they have to transfer it to the sheriffs in that state and all of those things. And then I mentioned before that a key part of protective orders is showing that you're in imminent fear of your life and safety, and how do you want to prove that if the person is not in your immediate vicinity? It's very hard. You will not meet the evidentiary burden for that, so it's not worth pursuing in court, yes. However, if maybe people who are in relationships or marriages across borders and this person consistently sends you threats over text messages, and then he's coming to America for vacation and you don't want him to stay in your house because you know that he will, then once they're in the US, once they're in your house, you can file with what they've said over time to you. You will get it for that, because now the person that has been threatening you is now in your house. So now the courts can see that you're in actual danger. I have seen those things work. People actually use it quite a lot.
And thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And then another one related to a parent or an abuser, a parent, the abusive parent not being around when the present parent wants to get a minor's US passport. Just wondering, so this is, related to other legal issues that often surround domestic violence. How do you navigate getting, records or passports for your children when the abusive parent is not around or present?
So the abusive parents is the one with the property.
Well, it appears from my interpretation of this question is that the victim wants to apply for a US passport for the child.
I
And
see.
so they don't have, the consent of the abusive parent.
With a protective order, it will be easier because you can just take it there, and you'd I think in that instance you have to file for custody. You have to file for custody, because if you're giving sole legal custody, for instance, then you can get a passport with the custody order. But if they're not here, you can't serve them the protective order paperwork. And honestly, protective orders don't really delve into issues like that. They will give you custody, temporary custody in protective order, but they don't delve into serious issues regarding children, because there is a court for that and there's an entire process for that. So
Family. Mhm.
either you file for custody in a proper family court, or I don't know. I think that's the appropriate answer to that.
Yeah, and thank you. And again, Kafilat does not practice law in the state of New Jersey, so make sure that you seek local legal counsel. Now,
Yeah.
on the gender issue, how can abused men take steps to protect themselves? Um, well, the question is asking from a manipulative and narcissistic wife or partner. Um, so I'm, just wondering on the legal side of things, how can abused men take steps to protect themselves? Let's focus on the legal side of things, because earlier you mentioned that sometimes men do have a more difficult time getting temporary restraining orders.
They do actually. I think documenting it is best. Just document text messages, document everything. So it's actually in cases involving men that I've seen videos work the most. I had a respondent who had domestic violence charges filed against him, and also a protective order. It was a Chinese speaking man. When he showed me videos of how that woman beats him, I have never seen such a thing in my life. So this man is just casually walking on his computer and she comes and slaps the hell out of him from behind. I was so shocked. And she laid all sorts of allegations against him and everything. So, because he's a respondent, he can't even get free legal assistance. And bear in mind, this person's first language is Mandarin. He doesn't speak English at all. So, I told him to get an attorney, but we're able to. He's also an immigrant, so he had a green card. So, we were able to get him referral for VAWA as well, because lucky VAWA works for men. But yeah. you have to document as much as possible. It's just harder for men, because these laws were developed really with women in mind. But things are getting better now. So hopefully in a few years, everybody will have, equal access to it.
Yeah,
Moni, I'm going to have Kafilat answer this question from Lydia because Lydia is from Maryland. She stays in Maryland. I don't know how you can advise her. So she's in Maryland.
Yeah,
do you see the question, or do you want me
I
to read it? You
I
do.
do. It's about men and abuse. Yes, it's hard to imagine because men are usually physically stronger, but men do get abused.
So I
I
think she has an
No,
early
no, that's not the
question.
question.
Yeah, she has an
Oh,
early question. So
That's not
that's
the
the other
question.
question. Oh my God,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I completely missed that.
no,
Okay.
that's okay.
It says, how do you do when a child is abused by a parent? According to what I was told, give me 1 second. The Child Protection Services do that on behalf of the child to the state attorney, but it has not been effective. Do I need to go directly again to the state attorney if that's the place to go, or if CPS unsubstantiates it or ruled it out, but child keeps reporting to therapist about it? If
So
CPS is not helpful, how do I get? Yeah.
yeah, we need to clarify from Lydia what she means by do. Do what? It's not clear what she's referring to. The question starts with, how do you do that when a child is abused by a parent? So it appears she was
I
responding to
think I
something
think I
in
think she
there.
left. I think she left. So I'm trying to get her back because I think she probably got upset and left because we were not answering her question. Yeah, she's not on the line. Lydia is not on the line. Yeah.
Well,
Lydia, she's back. She's there. Lydia, do you want to open up and talk? She's here. Lydia?
I'm very happy to answer Maryland related question.
She's in Maryland, so that should be helpful.
I'm actually excited. I might be able to help you some referrals now. So
Yeah, maybe you guys can talk later. You can advise her later.
All right. So she
But
said it's
she's not
about the
talking.
state attorney. So how do you, so Lydia, so do you
I
mean that how do you, go ahead.
I'm just gonna ask a quick follow-up question. What is your relationship with this child? Are you the mother?
She's the mother. She's the mother.
Okay, so if you're the mother of a child, you can actually file a protective order against the father of the child on behalf of your child. So it would be Lydia X OBO on behalf of whatever the child's name is, and you get a protective order against the father as long as you have grounds for it. If it did not work, it's either you didn't have proper grounds for it or you didn't prepare the paperwork well, and that's where referrals come in. Very
She had an
happy.
attorney. She had an attorney too.
Listen,
Mm.
I listen.
Mhm.
I understand those things happen as well. Sometimes we have been able to help people navigate these issues who have spent thousands of dollars on attorneys and it didn't work. Just because you paid somebody doesn't mean they're going to do a better job than free resources, and that's just the truth. So if you're open to it, you can come down to our office and we'll talk to you about it. I can also refer you to family
Okay.
law, help centers across. Yeah.
Thank you, Kafilat. We'll take it off. We'll take it
Yeah.
off.
Yes, I understand.
All right. So I mean, this has been an exceptionally informative session. So thank you so very, very much, Kafila, for sharing your wealth of experience. And Piwa, I'll just throw the very last question to you. And this applies across the board. If you suspect someone might be experiencing domestic violence, what's the best way to reach out cautiously, offering support without overstepping or jumping to conclusions? So how can we all help if we think that somebody might be experiencing domestic violence?
I think if most of the time what happens is when people are experiencing domestic violence, they keep quiet. They don't say anything. I think the best thing we can do is to help them talk. We can't force them to talk, but you can, provide resources. You can provide information to them eventually, and then provide them with options like consequences of keeping quiet when you are being abused. That also, you are picking their conscience. That also will help them to speak up or to do the right thing. And it's not all cases that lead in divorce. That's another thing, because some people, they don't want to leave their husband, but the evil has to be stopped, right? So it's very important that you take care of yourself first, and then we can talk about the love, the marriage, and whatever things that people worry about. And I know people also worry about, because, and to be honest with you, it's not a bed of roses. There are several challenges ahead, like especially if you have not been financially independent, or you co-labor, like you only have one person, put resources together. So to fall on one person, I understand, is very tough, but your life matters. If you're still, if you're alive, there is hope for you. So that's why you guys should reach out to people like TouchLink, people like us, or many other resources out there that government puts out, that agencies are trying to help. It's just because we don't want you to die in the situation. We want the evil to be stopped. That is the bottom line. We care for you. And one thing I always say to my victors is, you need to also care for yourself, care for your life. It's going to be rough, but as long as you're alive, it's going to get better. It's going to get rough, and then it will get better. That's the bottom line. So for TouchLink, I believe we have for people that don't know us, we have our website out there, www.touchlink.org. And we also have our phone number there. You can reach out to us. And several resources are available in New Jersey. They just put it out into the chat box. You can take out your phone, take a picture, and make sure, if you still live with the abuser, if you take a picture, send it to your friend or send it to somebody that you trust, and delete it from your phone. Don't be careless with this type of information. But it's been awesome. Thank you, everyone, for staying till the end. But this has been awesome. Do you think we should bring them back? Yes, we will definitely, Kafilat, bring you back. Maybe for our October session. In October we have, and that's their upcoming events. We have our big event coming up in October, and we normally do it for the whole month of October. And 3 Saturdays in October, we have a big session that we talk about, trending issues like this. Because legal fees are so expensive. So anything that we can do to support you guys, provide information, but more importantly, to make sure that you are safe. That's what really matters. But thank you so much for your time, Moni. Wow. Thank you for your work. You did very well. Kafilat, Umar, I really want to see you in person. Oh my God. You are amazing. I'm so proud of you. Thank you all for all that you do. And everybody that joined tonight, can we all just throw them some hugs and kisses and love and say thank you? The ladies have done a great job tonight. Thank you. But thank you, everybody, for joining. God bless. Before we go, let's just quickly say a word of prayer. Father God, we thank you for this wonderful information that we have received tonight. We pray, oh God, that this information will become transformative in the life of the hearers, and also in the life of the people that we will be able to provide this information for, in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you for everyone that have done their due diligence. They've done exceedingly abundantly. They've gone beyond their scope of assignments to really provide this information. I pray that you reward them and bless them indeed, in Jesus' name. Everybody that has joined tonight, kudos, thank you. God bless you. Help spread the word. Let's stay safe, right? Safety plan is so important. I know we didn't have time to talk about. I believe there was one session that will really address safety plan. What do we include in safety plan? So I think you should look out for that session. Thank you, everybody. Good night. God bless you. Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. God bless you. Good night. Love you.
Bye.
Africa.
Bye, Ma.